I'm Mike, and welcome to Retro Boost. Today we're talking about how much cables matter for the Sega Genesis. This will be all about composite and component with the 2X Pro using my Sega Genesis. And unlike the previous part, there are some additional things to discuss about what the component cables bring to the table. More than just visual fidelity, but also compatibility and some additional features. It'll be very cool to discuss here. So let's get into it. Okay, so first the cables in question, as I stated, composite and component. The component cables in question are retro gaming cables versions that I've had for a number of years now and like them very much. Wish I could show like B-roll of them on the table, but they are pretty well integrated into my new AV setup, and removing them would be a humongous hassle. So enjoy them in these shots of my AV setup. And then composite's just standard composite, nothing really special there. Here's the thing though. So with the Super Nintendo, we could go composite to S-Video to component with the 2X Pro, see some differences. With the Sega Genesis, composite's just not really compatible by default. It depends on the revision of console you have and the type of encoder it uses. That's what this has been kind of like nailed down to. But if you have a kind of incompatible console, which I appear to have, the ability for composite output to work normally with the 2X Pro is pretty hit and miss. I had to redo a lot of the capture just to try to get a continuous streak of clean video output from the Genesis to the 2X Pro. And then for the Sega CD, which I did plan on doing comparisons for as well, it just like never wanted to kind of work constantly. It would have these flashes of blown out color and issues like that happening. So it's not good. So component as an upgrade is more about compatibility with the additional benefits of it looking a lot better, but compatibility is the main thing because you don't have that issue when you use component cables. All of those compatibility issues get resolved. The other interesting thing that didn't really come up with the Super Nintendo is Overscan. Overscan is excess area on the screen being shown to us that would normally have been cut off on an old school CRT, but is here plainly visible as this crazy kind of like off-color border all over the screen, and the 2X Pro just kind of has to show that. There's no way to get rid of it unless you were going to crop with like a software like OBS during a live stream, as an example, or devices like the 5X Pro and higher have scaling and cropping features, and you can crop away all of that overscan and hide it to present the image without it present. Another interesting little just thing to bring up is that the Sega Genesis brings with it some titles that have like resolution changes. So Sonic the Hedgehog 2 is an example of this, where a lot of the game runs at 240p, but the multiplayer split screen stuff switches to interlaced, and when that happens, you lose picture with the 2X Pro because the 2X Pro doesn't have frame buffer like the 5X Pro and higher ones do. So the image will cut out as the resolution changes and the 2X Pro needs to readjust itself. You lose picture in that moment before it comes back. With the 5X Pro, the default triple buffer being enabled, there is no picture drop when those resolutions change. So just some random things there pertinent to the Sega Genesis and 2X Pro experience, because resolution changes definitely can happen with the Super Nintendo, but it just didn't really come up with any of the games I did testing for, both in the video like Super Metroid or some other ones that I've done capture with for other comparisons in recent past. Just never comes up. But the Sega Genesis, hey, it comes up, so let's talk about it for a second. The last interesting thing is additional features that component brings to the table with the 2X Pro, because the 2X Pro has 3 toggleable filters by default. The normal, like sharp output, good for 2D based games, a smooth output, which is good for like 3D stuff if you want to smooth out like N64, PS2, that kind of stuff, and then scanline generation. But when you use component with updated firmware, you actually have an additional set of 3. These LPF versions, low pass filter versions of those same filters, are now available with component. And the use case for that's kind of interesting because it affects how transparent textures are processed and how color is presented. So a good example, like the waterfalls in Sonic the Hedgehog, they look like digital rain by default, just using the normal sharp filter. But when you switch it into the LPF version of that filter, suddenly the water now has like watery looking texture, and it's got like proper transparency. The bubble shields are also a good example of that in Sonic 1 in the footage I'll be showing. The only downside is it does bring with it some added horizontal blur and some artifacting around the text, so you lose some clarity doing this, but depending on the game you're playing, it may make the transparency seem a lot more natural and authentic. Another cool thing there. All good stuff to mention. So there is our setup. So now we're going to do some comparisons, split down the middle comparisons, side-by-side comparisons, and then like a transition comparison like I've done in the previous couple of videos using Sonic the Hedgehog 1. We will do composite versus component default and with Scanlines, and then also the LPF versions with and without Scanlines. And just for giggles, a component versus component with the LPF feature as well, to show it all off. And these will be just standard Sega Genesis output. I did do all the capture for my Sega CD, but again, the picture output was just really inconsistent, and it would lead to a kind of distracting side-by-side. As this happened a lot, I did decide to include one of the blown out color examples for one of the transition wipes. So you will get an example of that, like kind of seeing like, yeah, this is what incompatible composite looks like, and then transition that to what clean component looks like, to really drive home not just the upgrade in like clarity, but like the proper, like, it works. Component makes this work is the bottom line with this one. So the previous ones, it's kind of been like about, hey, look, S-Video is an option. That's great. Take a look at it. With this one, component with the Sega Genesis in particular for a 2X Pro is like the main way to really utilize this scalar line double really with this console. So keep all that in mind and enjoy these comparisons. Sega!
Sega! Sega! Sega! Sega! Sega!
All right, pretty dramatic as always. Component definitely superior. It's definitely your preference if you like the low pass filter versions or not, and what they bring to the table regarding how some textures are being processed on screen. Definitely more authentic looking transparency with those examples, but I think that the overall clarity jump that Component brings under normal circumstances is worth putting up with some dithering, at least in my opinion. It never really bugged me before, although the waterfalls definitely stick out to me as like digital rain now, which I didn't really think before until really seeing this stuff side by side. It's pretty wild. But in any case, certainly better than composite due to the added clarity, the lack of all the fuzz the composite brings with it, but also the fact that the colors don't go crazy neon flash mode at random intervals and reds become pinks and so on. So you can definitely have a crazy wild time with composite regarding colors, kind of turn it into a action sequence from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure or something. But if you want the picture to be proper, component is what you want to do. So there we have it, some cool comparisons of all that. I hope the added information about the features that component can bring with it were helpful as well. That's all there is to this one. As far as what's on the horizon next, I gotta do a triple comparison between the 2X, 5X, and 4K Pros with the Super Nintendo, and then we'll see where I go from there regarding this stuff. I'll probably do PS1 cable comparisons with the 2X Pro next, because I do have all them cables, and we'll see where it goes from there. But thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you on the next one.
Oh my